everyone, it's Enjoy English School.
Yo!
And today we have day 2 of Extraordinary Structures and the Men Who Made Them.
今天我们要继续跟大家介绍，上一次呢，我们昨天介绍了这个凭一己之力成就的绝妙建筑，我们介绍了 The Coral Castle， 对不对？今天我们要更加的要加码，要跟大家介绍另外一个非常非常有名，在法国这个里昂的附近的一个地方，你可以找到一个地方叫做理想宫 The Ideal Palace.
So we're leaving Florida for France and...Hey, that sounds okay to me.
Yeah, that's good.
Let's go on a vacation here. So today we will be talking about the Ideal Palace. And if you missed yesterday, we talked about Ed Leedskalnin and his Coral Castle. So we got some interesting things to talk about. I'm trying to think what's the most interesting structure I've ever seen. Offhand, I can't think of what is the coolest, best building I've ever seen. Maybe Taipei 101. I come from a small city. There's not really...special cool buildings where I'm from.
我的话会想到the Eiffel Tower, La Tour Eiffel. 好，那个是我在法国的时候看到说，哇，真的在下面这样看，其实蛮壮观的。
Yeah, I need to go to France. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea after today's show. Let's go to France. Let's get ready for paragraph 1. All right, so we are back with Enjoy English School, and we're on paragraph 1. Get your pens, pencils, highlighters, and erasers ready.Our first sentence begins, the ideal palace is similar to the Coral Castle in that both were built by men with great dreams.
好，我们在第一段的第一句话，我们先把这两个字画起来 in that， 把这个地方中间那个地方 in that 给框起来之后，上面帮我写一个 because。好，在这里的话 in that 就是 because 的意思，这样去看就很清楚咯。The ideal palace 就是我们今天介绍的主题理想宫 is similar to the Coral Castle 我们昨天介绍的主题，为什么呢？ Because, or you can say in that, both were built by men with great dreams 因为呢，这两者都是由这个怀抱着伟大梦想的人所建筑出来的哦。
Now, we have a great little comparative transition here. We're comparing two ideas. A is similar to B. This is something really good to remember for your compositions when you need to compare 比起来 two different things. Write that down. A is similar to B in that 还是 because 怎么样
这个句型很好用。
Our next sentence says, Joseph Ferdinand Cheval.What a great name. Joseph Ferdinand Cheval was a mailman in rural France in the 1860s.
好，接下来我们看到这个主角了，叫做 Joseph Ferdinand Cheval。这个地方我刚刚在那个课前的时候，我跟这个 Chris 老师有聊过，在法文里面 Cheval 的意思呢，其实就是指 horses， 好，就是指那个马的意思。好，他 was a mailman in rural France in the 1860s。他是在1860年代，好，是在法国的乡村，好，他是在这边做一个邮差 mailman。So
in a way, what did horses often do for people? They carried things, right?
Yeah.
And he's a mailman. He's a mail carrier. So he lives up to his name.
True. Live up to his name. 就是他有这样的名字，然后刚好呢也是做的事情也是符合这样名声。因为马的话是用来搬运东西搬运的，所以他本身也是帮人家搬运这个信件，对不对？好，就是人如其名的感觉。
So the opposite of the word rural is urban. U-R-B-A-N. Those are two good words to practice together. Rural, urban.
Urban 的话指城市的 Rural 指的是乡村的常常这两个字的话都会被放来当做一个对比的感觉
小心这个 rural 不是那个 It's not the suburbs. Sometimes my students get rural and the suburbs different. The suburbs has a lot of houses and still a lot of stores. Rural is an adjective that means the countryside. There are not a lot of stores. There are not a lot of houses here. It's mostly farms.
没错，很多时候要特别小心。如果今天提到是 in the suburbs， 好，就是在郊区的意思。但是郊区不见得指的是 rural area。在郊区的话，比方说像在美国好了，郊区都是有钱人住的，而且他们还是会有很多那种高楼层的这种房子。可是老师刚刚就提到说，如果是 rural area 的话，没有什么高楼层的房，都是平房，甚至还有很多的农场等等。
Our next sentence says, Every day he delivered the mail on foot. Oh man, your teachers love to practice like on foot. You will see this on your test. 100%. Highlight this. 确定你手 on foot, 不是 on feet, 而且不是 by foot.
要特别注意，大部分人的话会记得是 by 加交通工具，但是如果你呢是用脚去走路的话，我们会用不同的介系词，我们会用 on， 而且呢，虽然我们有两只脚，但是我们会用单数的 on foot 来表达步行这个概念。
So 他很可怜 ，He's a mail carrier， 他有一个脚而已的跳。Life is hard.
呀，好可怜啊。
Our next sentence says, one day he tripped over a strange rock.During his rounds.
好，在这边这句话说 one day 有一天呢 he tripped over. When you say tripped over something 就是被后面这个东西给绊到了。 Tripped over a strange rock during his rounds 这个地方指的 rounds 指的是他来回送信的这个一趟一趟的旅程，对不对？在这边的话，他在送信的途中呢，不小心被一个奇怪的形状怪异的石头给绊倒了。
This rounds is always plural. 圈起来那个 s 的话 and let's use a related word here. Route. R-O-U-T-E. 我可以看得出来他们两个单词有关系。Look, rounds, the 拼法是 R-O-U-N-D-S. Route 就是 R-O-U-T-E. And route is always, route can be singular or plural.Yeah,
所以说这个 R-O-U-T-E 有的时候你会听人家念成 route 或是念成 route 都有可能，也都是指路途的意思。
He picked it up so that he could admire it later.
好，他就呢把它捡起来。哦，这形状这么怪异的石头啊 He picked it up. 好，就把它捡起来 so that he could admire it later. 那之后等到他工作完毕之后，可以好好的去欣赏这块漂亮的石头。
I want you to think about this. A lot of people might trip over a rock and be mad at the rock and throw the rock. But this person picked it up and said, wow, this is really special. And he kept it. You can still see it today. We'll talk more about it later.
哇，太酷了啦，对不对？所以说很多时候被石头绊倒，你可能会对那石头生气，可是他不但没有对石头生气，还看到这石头好漂亮哦，这是上天给我的宝物啊！你看看这样子的这种世界观，真是太棒了。
Okay, ready? I love this next part. Soon, Cheval started collecting rocks in a basket, then switched to using a wheelbarrow.
好，接下来就说啦，好 ，Soon Cheval started collecting rocks 之后呢，他就开启了他收集石头这个旅程哈。In a basket， 他会把它放在篮子里面 ，and then switched to using a wheelbarrow。到后来呢，他就不用这样，他就直接拿了一个那个独轮的那种手推车，有没有？一边送信一边去收集石头，哎。
So he had a mail route or a mail route. His rounds were 42 kilometers. I want you to think about that. He's walking for 42 kilometers, carrying mail, carrying rocks. It's such a funny story to me.
哇，所以你仔细去看他背后的故事很有趣，是他送信的整个那个路程啊，差不多是42公里。本来的话，你说路上捡捡石头就算了，可是你今天是推着一个独轮的那种手推车，一边送信一边收集石头，推着42公里，你试试看，哇，受不了哎！可是他可见他这样做是真的很喜欢这件事情。
So yesterday, we talked about the word consist, and we said C-O-N in English usually means together. So when you see C-O-N, C-O-M, 还是 C-O-L 的话，都是在一起。And sure enough, look at the word collect. Please circle the C-O-L. When we collect something, we put it in one place.
啊，对耶，我们昨天有提到 C-O-N、C-O-M 这些字都是指把什么东西放在一起，一同怎么样的，对不对？在这边我们看到了 collecting rocks 的 collect 这个字 collecting C-O-L 的这个开头就是把东西放在 put them together.
That's right. Maybe a C-O-M 在一起的 word might be complete.
Complete 没错，也是 C-O-M 开头的这个字汇。
Our final sentence in this paragraph says he gathered 还是 collected stones for 33 years, carefully stacking them up into a beautiful palace.
好，最后这句话还说了 He gathered stones for 33 years. 他这样一做就做了33年。Carefully stacking them up 这个 them 指的是 stones 就很小心翼翼的把这些石头呢把它收集好堆叠出了 stacking them up into 堆叠成了 a beautiful palace 一个美丽的宫殿。
I really like this word palace. It's an old French word that's named after one of the hills Rome was built on. The hill was called Palladium, and that's where the most powerful families built their houses, and these houses were big and beautiful. So people later called the big, beautiful houses on the hill called Palladium palaces.
OK， 原来 palace 这个字是来自于这样子一个故事哦，就是基本上在罗马那边呢，有一个非常重要的一个地方，然后那边的话有一些那种法国人居住的时候，他们就在那个地方造了一个很漂亮的皇宫一般的这种家里，叫做 Palladium。OK， 然后之后呢，看到这么漂亮的家。到后来大家就会想说，这种美丽的 beautiful houses 就可以把它念作成 palace 或者 palaces。其实，在法文里面的话，这个 palace 是 palais， 它是 palais 什么什么东西。像我们今天看到的 ideal palace 就是 palais ideal， 就是理想宫。所以 palace 这个字就是宫殿的感觉，是美丽的家。
Let's take a quick break.Welcome back to Enjoy English School. We're on paragraph 2 of our Extraordinary Structures and the Men Who Made Them article. Let's begin. Cheval was not an architect, so he learned little by little through experimentation.
好，再来我们看第二段的第一句话，他说 Cheval was not an architect.Architect 就是建筑师的意思，这边要特别注意的是 CH 是发可的声音，好，在上面的话你不妨可以写个 K， 好 Architect 好就是建筑师，他的话不是建筑师 So he learned little by little through experimentation。 如果你今天你把这个 experimentation 后面的 ATION 遮住， experiment 指的是实验，如果说 experimentation 指的 process of doing experiments， 好，就是在这个实验的过程，他慢慢的一点一点 little by little 一点一点的学习。
Now, 小心不是 a little by a little. We can't use a here. And 通常如果有 a little 没有 a 的话 it's negative. But 事实上 this little by little can be both positive or negative.
没错，在这里的话 little by little 一般我们讲到 little 没有 a 的时候是负面的概念，但是如果你讲 little by little 的话，它可以是中性的，可以用来讲好的事物，也可以用来讲负面的事物。
The palace measures more than 30 meters long and stands 12 meters tall.
好，接下来告诉你这个宫殿的这个大小咯。他说 The palace measures 这个地方记得好，这个 S 的话是发日的声音，好 measures 用主动的，就是它的 measures more than 30 meters long， 长的话呢是超过了30公尺 OK and stands 12 meters tall， 那高的话呢是差不多是12公尺左右。
He constructed it all on his own with materials he had at hand.
好 he construct 这个字是建造的意思 constructed 好就把它建造出来 constructed it all on his own 就是自己一个人这样做 with materials he had at hand 他就拿手边的可以拿得到的这些事物就慢慢的当做材料一样一样的把它这个东西建造起来
Now we can say at hand or on hand, both are okay. And look at the word constructed 前面是什么 C-O-N 这意思是 put together.
所以说这边又看到一个 C-O-N 带头的一个 put together 的例子咯
Our next sentence says, stone by stone, 再一次这个 A by A 的话 stone by stone, he built a palace inspired by his dreams and nightmares.
Yeah, okay, stone by stone 就很像那种一砖一瓦的感觉只是他现在动的都是石头哈一颗石头一颗石头慢慢的建 He built a palace inspired by his dreams and nightmares 那他就试着去建造他心中的宫殿这个宫殿它的灵感是来自什么地方呢后面他就提到 inspired by 这边你不妨可以在 palace 上面写一个N 一个是指名词的意思常常你会看到名词后面接上一个 VPP 意思就是which is or which was inspired by his dreams and nightmares 他灵感的来源是来自于他的梦境有的时候甚至是噩梦他就变成他灵感的来源了
So inspire is made of two Latin words. In means with, and spire means your breath, your air. And if you don't have air, you can't be strong. You can't live. You'll die. So when we have inspire, that means with air, with energy.
就像注入生命、注入能量的那种感觉。
Our next sentence says, taking ideas from the postcards he delivered, he carved structures from distant lands such as Hindu temples and mosques.
好，来他说 taking ideas from the postcards he delivered， 因为他本身是邮差嘛，有机会看到很多很多的明信片，来自世界各地的明信片，对不对？所以他就从这个地方汲取了灵感。He carved structures from distant lands. Distant land 指的是遥远的国度。好，他就开始从这个地方去找到，哎呦，这个建筑物很漂亮，那我就用这个来盖好了。他举一些例子了，像是哪些遥远国度的这种建筑物呢 ？Such as Hindu temples， 印度教的这些寺庙啦 ，and mosques 就是指的是这种清真寺。
So land is usually uncountable, but here land is plural with an S because it means countries. Highlight the S and write the word countries, so distant countries, faraway places.
Yeah, 没错。
Our next sentence says, his work was even recognized by famous artists such as Pablo Picasso.
好，接下来你看这个句子里面还有提到这个字 recognize， 这个字可以当作是认得某人。但是这个地方它有指的意思是受到什么人的认可，所以说you can say recognize, that means you know something or you acknowledge something， 意思就指的是你认可某项东西是真的很重要的。所以在这边的话说 his work was even recognized by famous artists such as Pablo Picasso， 意思就是说他的作品甚至得到了许多艺术家的认可，其中还包括了毕卡索这样子有名的艺术家。
So, interestingly, the first thing that Cheval built was a fountain. He used seashells, snails, and oysters. And I like that he used this thing that sprouted water. And he'd often talk about water being the source of life. And I just thought that was really interesting. Let's start with a fountain and water and then make everything else after it.
哇，太酷了！所以老师刚刚这边提到说，史豹他很喜欢建造很多东西，其中一个呢，第一个他建造的东西呢就是喷泉 ，fountain was a fountain。然后他建造的这些材料呢，可能像是 seashells， 这种海边捡的贝壳啦 ，snails 蝸牛啦 ，oysters 牡蛎啦等等这些东西的壳，慢慢建造出这样的东西。而且他提到说，很多时候水就是我们生命的来源。
All right, let's look at our final paragraph. Cheval wanted to be buried in his palace.But the government refused.
怎么这样？他就说了 Cheval wanted to be buried in his palace. 他自己建造的这个宫殿呢，他希望他之后如果说百年之后过世了，他希望能够埋在他宫殿里头。结果居然他说 the government refused. Government 这政府说不行，你不可以埋在你自己造的宫殿里头。
So he spent 8 more years building his own tomb in a similar style as the palace.
好，所以他怎么办呢？没关系啊，他就再造一个就是了嘛。So he spent 8 more years， 又再花了8年多的时间，好，大概超过8年的时间吧。Build his own tomb in a similar style as the palace， 就是他就自己再造了一个属于他自己的这种坟墓或是陵墓，然后用类似的方式，就像他制造之前这个宫殿一样。
这个发音蛮特别的 O is 那个长双 O like moon and MB 不是b it is tomb 不是 tomb. So at the age of 70, Cheval now has to build his own tomb. He works for 8 years and then he dies a year later. What a story.
天哪，好辛苦呢。所以他花了额外8年时间做完之后，刚好再过1年他就寿终正寝了，刚好可以放在他自己的陵墓里头。
These days, over 100,000 visitors come to admire his unusual feat every year.
好，最后他就说了 These days, 时至今日呢 over 100,000 visitors come to admire his unusual feat. 这个地方 feat, F-E-A-T 指的是成就 achievement. 好 every year 指的是每年有超过10万名的游客前来欣赏他非凡的杰作。
All right, let's do vocab review. Okay, it's time for vocabulary review. Our first word today is a palace.
A palace 就是指宫殿的意思。
Our next word is to construct.
To construct 就是建造。
And our final word today is rural.
Rural 指的是偏乡的，或很多时候 rural area 指的就是在 countryside 在乡下。
And that's all the time we have for today. We will catch you real soon. For Enjoy English School, I'm Chris Gorski.
I'm Anthony.
We'll see you then. Bye-bye.